Curtis closed his laptop and rubbed his eyes, the glow of the screen lingering like a faint burn. He'd spent the morning helping his neighbor, Javier, a retired mechanic in his 60s, troubleshoot a spotty Wi-Fi connection at his Seattle apartment. Javier had insisted on paying him with a thermos of strong coffee, calling Curtis the kind of guy who'd fix the world if you let him. Curtis smiled, waved it off, and promised to check back tomorrow. It was the kind of small, selfless act that defined him. A software engineer who'd rather solve problems than start them. Back home, he settled onto the couch, the hum of a baseball game on the TV filling the quiet. His wife, Lauren, was upstairs, getting ready for something she hadn't mentioned. They'd been married 5 years, and Curtis had grown used to her spontaneous plans. Book clubs, yoga classes, late-night coffee runs with friends. He trusted her rhythm, even if it sometimes left him feeling like a bystander in their own life. But tonight felt different. The door to their bedroom creaked open, and Lauren stepped out. Her heels clicked sharply against the hardwood, a sound that pulled Curtis's attention from the game. She grabbed her keys from the counter, her movements deliberate, almost rehearsed. "I'm going on a date," she said, her voice light but edged with something sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. She adjusted an earring, not meeting his eyes, and smirked. "Try not to be too jealous." Curtis froze, his thumb hovering over the TV remote. The words hit like a punch he didn't see coming, but he didn't flinch. He didn't ask where, or who, or why. He just watched her, the way her fingers tightened around her purse, the way she avoided looking at him directly. The silence stretched, heavy, until the ice in her glass rattled as she took a sip of wine. Then she was gone, the front door clicking shut behind her. He sat there, the game's commentary fading into static. His first instinct wasn't anger. It was disbelief, like he'd misheard her. But the smirk, the casual cruelty of her words, replayed in his mind. He stood, moving slowly, as if testing whether his legs still worked. The apartment felt too still, like it was holding its breath. On the counter, he noticed something, her phone charger, left behind. Lauren never forgot her charger. It was a small detail, but it sparked something in him, a need to understand. Curtis grabbed his laptop and opened it, his fingers moving on autopilot. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, but he started with their shared cloud account. Lauren's tablet, which she rarely used, was still synced. He hesitated, then clicked into the recent uploads. A folder labeled Photos loaded, and his stomach dropped. Images flickered onto the screen. Hotel rooms, tangled sheets, no faces, just limbs and shadows. One photo showed a mirror selfie, Lauren's hand visible, and in the corner, a man's silhouette. Curtis's breath caught. He knew that silhouette. Ryan, his friend from college, the guy who'd toasted at their wedding, who'd crashed on their couch after his own divorce. He clicked deeper, finding audio files. 3 of them, time-stamped over the past month. His finger hovered over the play button, dread pooling in his chest. He hit play on the first. Static crackled, then Lauren's voice, laughing, low and intimate. "He's clueless," she said. "Probably folding my laundry right now." A man's laugh followed. Ryan's. Curtis stopped the clip, his pulse hammering. He didn't need to hear more, but he played the second file anyway. It was worse. Ryan's voice, smug. "He still thinks you're at book club? Poor guy." Lauren's giggle cut through the static. "Why would I tell him? He's too busy being perfect." Curtis leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was the mockery, the way they turned his trust into a punchline. He didn't cry or yell. Instead, something cold and sharp settled in his mind. He wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. He needed proof, undeniable and airtight. He copied the files to a secure drive, his hand steady despite the chaos in his head. Then he noticed another detail. Lauren's tablet had a location history. He opened it, and a map loaded, pinning her at a downtown Seattle hotel 3 times in the past 2 weeks. He closed the laptop and stood, the thermos of Javier's coffee still warm on the counter. Curtis didn't drink it. Instead, he grabbed his phone and texted a friend, Mia, a cybersecurity analyst he'd met at a coding boot camp. "Need a favor," he wrote. "Can you verify some digital files? Make sure they're legit?" Mia replied instantly, "Send them over." "What's going on?" He didn't answer that part. "Just need to be sure," he typed. By midnight, Mia confirmed the files weren't tampered with. She also found metadata in the photos, linking them to specific dates and a hotel called the Ellison. Curtis searched the name, his jaw tightening as he recognized it from Lauren's calendar. A book club event was scheduled there next Friday. He leaned back, a plan forming. He wasn't the type to scream or break things. He was the type to remember, to document, to act with precision. Lauren thought she played him, but Curtis was already 3 moves ahead. He opened his calendar and added a new event, a family dinner with Lauren's parents and sister, set for the same night as her hotel rendezvous. He texted her mom, Diane, to confirm, "Dinner next Friday at Crannell Steakhouse, 7 p.m. You guys in?" Diane replied, "Of course. Lauren coming too?" Curtis typed back, she wouldn't miss it. He stared at the screen, the weight of his discovery settling in. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, and he'd make sure it hit like a tidal wave. Curtis woke early the next morning, the weight of Lauren's betrayal still coiled in his chest. He didn't confront her when she returned home at 2 a.m., humming a tune as if nothing had happened. Instead, he watched her slip into bed, her phone glowing as she scrolled through messages that weren't from him. He played his part, kissing her cheek before leaving for work, but his mind was elsewhere. He didn't head to his office. Instead, he drove to a quiet cafe in Seattle's Capitol Hill, where he could think without her presence clouding his focus. At the cafe, Curtis opened his laptop and revisited the files from Lauren's tablet. The photos and audio were damning, but he needed more, something that couldn't be dismissed as a misunderstanding. He dug deeper into the cloud account, finding a hidden folder labeled Miscellaneous. Inside were screenshots of texts between Lauren and Ryan, some dated months back. One message from Ryan read, "He's still buying the book club excuse? You're too good at this." Lauren's reply, "It's not hard. Curtis trusts me." The words stung, but Curtis pushed past the hurt, saving every file to a secure USB drive. He called Mia again, his cybersecurity friend. "I need to trace location data," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Can you pull GPS logs from a tablet without triggering alerts?" Mia paused, then agreed, sensing the urgency. By noon, she sent him a report. Lauren's tablet had pinged at the Ellison Hotel 5 times in the past month, always during her book club nights. The data matched the photo timestamps perfectly. Curtis thanked her and added the report to his growing evidence folder. Next, he searched Ryan's name online, something he hadn't done since college. A LinkedIn profile showed Ryan as a marketing consultant, but a deeper dive revealed a shadier side. Public reviews on a freelance platform mentioned Ryan's pushy tactics with clients, and one anonymous post hinted at blackmail. Kuatis gut twisted. This wasn't just about Lauren. Ryan was calculating, possibly dangerous. He needed to know more. Curtis drove to the Ellison Hotel that afternoon, blending in with the lunch crowd. At the front desk, he posed as a guest confirming a reservation under Lauren's name for next Friday. The clerk, distracted by a ringing phone, nodded and confirmed his suite booked for 8 p.m. Curtis left a small tip and walked out, his mind racing. He wasn't just gathering evidence now. He was building a trap. Back at the cafe, he contacted his brother, Ethan, a criminal defense attorney in Tacoma. "I've got something big," Curtis said over a secure call. "Not just an affair. There's more to it. Can you look at some files?" Ethan agreed to meet the next day, urging Curtis to stay quiet until they had a plan. Curtis spent the evening cross-referencing Lauren's calendar with the GPS logs. Every book club, entry lined up with a hotel visit. He found an email confirmation for a dinner reservation at Crannell Steakhouse, booked weeks ago by Lauren's mom for the family. Perfect. He'd use it. That night, Lauren came home late again, claiming a long discussion at her book club. "You should come sometime," she said, her tone teasing. Curtis nodded, forcing a smile. "Sounds fun." Inside, he felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just focus. After she went to bed, he slipped into the guest room and booked a room at the Ellison for next Friday, right next to the suite Lauren and Ryan had reserved. He drafted a note on plain paper. Dinner plans changed. Crannell's, 7 p.m. Dress appropriately. He'd slide it under their hotel room door that night, ensuring Lauren would see it before her rendezvous. The next morning, Curtis met Ethan at his office. He handed over the USB drive with the photos, audio, texts, and GPS logs. Ethan skimmed the files, his expression darkening. "This guy's not just a cheater," he said. "The audio, the way he talks, it's manipulative. He's done this before." Ethan pointed to a text where Ryan bragged about having leverage, over someone else. Curtis's jaw tightened. "There's more," he said, showing Ethan the anonymous post about Ryan's blackmail tactics. Ethan leaned back. "We need to verify everything. If this is a pattern, it's not just your problem, it's criminal." Curtis spent the next 2 days quietly rerouting their joint finances. He consulted a financial advisor recommended by Ethan, moving funds to a temporary account Lauren couldn't access. It was legal, clean, and necessary. He didn't touch her personal savings, only what was shared. At home, he kept up appearances, asking Lauren about her day, even offering to cook dinner. She seemed oblivious, chatting about work while texting under the table. Curtis noticed the name on her screen, Ryan. He said nothing. By day 4, Mia sent another update. She'd hacked into a deleted email thread on Lauren's tablet, recovering messages where Ryan pressured Lauren to meet, hinting at consequences if she didn't. Curtis forwarded it to Ethan, who was already building a case. "If we go to the police, it's not just about infidelity," Ethan said. "This could be coercion, but we need more to make it stick." Curtis nodded. He wasn't done digging. On day 5, he returned to the Ellison, this time scoping the layout. He found the suite's floor and memorized the exits, noting a security camera near the elevator. He asked a maintenance worker about the camera's range, posing as a curious guest. The worker confirmed it recorded 24/7, with footage stored for 30 days. Curtis made a mental note to request access later, if needed. He left the hotel feeling like a detective in his own life, every step deliberate, every move calculated. That night, he finalized his plan. He printed the evidence, texts, GPS logs, and a transcript of the audio where Lauren mocked him. He organized it into envelopes, one for each of Lauren's family members at the dinner. The final touch was the note for the hotel room. He delivered himself, ensuring Lauren and Ryan walked into the family dinner instead of their secret getaway. Curtis didn't want a fight or a scene. He wanted truth, delivered like a checkmate. Curtis parked his car a block from Crannell's Steakhouse in Seattle, the weight of the envelopes in his bag pressing against his resolve. It was Friday, 6:45 p.m., and the family dinner he'd orchestrated was about to begin. Lauren's parents, Diane and Paul, and her sister, Claire, were already inside, expecting a routine catch-up. Lauren, oblivious, thought she was meeting Ryan at the Ellison Hotel for their rendezvous. Curtis had other plans. Last night, he'd slipped a note under their hotel room door. Dinner plans changed. Crannell's 7 p.m. Dress appropriately. The trap was set. He'd spent the week preparing, his evidence meticulously organized. The envelopes contained printed texts, GPS logs, and transcripts of audio files from Lauren's tablet, each time-stamped and verified by Mia, his cybersecurity friend. A separate USB drive held backups, including a damning voicemail from Ryan, gloating about manipulating Lauren. Ethan, his attorney brother, had reviewed everything, warning Curtis to keep it legal and focused. "This isn't just about her," Ethan said. "Ryan's a predator. We're building a case." Curtis nodded, his anger tempered by purpose. At 6:55 p.m., Curtis entered the steakhouse, greeted by the clink of glasses and low chatter. Diane waved him over, her smile warm but curious. "Where's Lauren?" she asked. Curtis set his bag down, his voice calm. "She's running late. She'll be here soon." Paul, always skeptical, raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Claire, scrolling her phone, joked, "Probably stuck in traffic again." Curtis forced a smile, his heart pounding. He placed the envelopes on the table, one in front of each family member, and said, "Hold on to these. Don't open them yet." The clock hit 7:10 p.m. when the restaurant doors swung open. Lauren walked in, her steps faltering as she spotted Curtis and her family. She froze, clutching her purse, her eyes darting between the table and the envelopes. Curtis met her gaze, his expression neutral. "Sit," he said, not loud, just firm. She hesitated, then pulled out a chair, her movements stiff. Diane frowned. "Lauren, what's going on?" Lauren forced a laugh, brittle and unconvincing. "Nothing, Mom. Curtis is just being dramatic." Curtis leaned forward, sliding an extra envelope toward her. "Open it," he said. Lauren's fingers trembled as she tore it open, revealing a single sheet, a still from the Ellison security camera, showing her and Ryan near the elevator, time-stamped 3:47 a.m. 2 weeks ago. Her breath hitched. "This is fake," she said, her voice rising. He's twisting everything. Curtis didn't blink. You can say that. But these, he gestured to the family's envelopes, are time-stamped, backed up, and verified. Audio included. Diane opened her envelope, her eyes scanning the printed texts. Paul followed, his face hardening as he read Lauren's words. He's clueless. Probably folding my laundry. Claire gasped, flipping to the GPS logs showing Lauren's hotel visits. The table fell silent, the restaurant's hum fading into the background. Lauren's voice cracked. You're all believing this? He's obsessed. Curtis pulled out his phone and played Ryan's voicemail, the one he'd found on Lauren's tablet. Ryan's voice filled the air, smug and cruel. She needs drama like oxygen. Curtis is a soft target. It was a bet. Get her head before her heart. Diane gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Paul pushed his chair back, rubbing his temples. Claire whispered, How long have you known? Curtis kept his eyes on Lauren. Long enough to know I'm not the problem. Lauren's facade crumbled, her hands gripping the table. This is pathetic, she muttered, but her voice shook. Curtis leaned closer, his tone low. Say his name again. I dare you. She clamped her mouth shut, her eyes darting to her family, who were now staring at her like a stranger. The tension broke when Diane spoke, her voice trembling. Lauren, how could you? Lauren tried to pivot, her words tumbling out. He's hacking me, Mom. He's making this up. Curtis slid another envelope across the table, this one with a business card from a forensic tech Mia had recommended. Everything's verified, he said. Check the tablet's recovery bin, or the location history. It matches the hotel visits. Lauren's face drained of color. She stood, half ready to bolt, but Paul's voice stopped her. Sit down, he said, his tone like steel. She sank back into the chair. Curtis played his final card, a screen recording he'd compiled, syncing Lauren's texts, audio, and GPS data. The video showed her search history, including queries like how to hide messages and hotels with no cameras. The evidence was airtight, each piece clicking into place like a puzzle no one wanted to solve. Claire swore under her breath, flipping through the pages. Diane's hands shook as she read a text where Lauren called Curtis predictable. Paul looked at Curtis, his voice low. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Curtis exhaled. I needed you to see it for yourselves. Lauren's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Instead, she laughed again, sharp and desperate. You're all falling for this? She said, but no one responded. The restaurant felt smaller, the air thick with betrayal. Curtis stood, his bag in hand. This isn't the end game, he said, looking at Lauren. It's the preview. He turned to her family. You raise someone who lies better than she breathes. But tonight, you decide what happens next. He walked out, leaving Lauren to face the wreckage she'd created, the envelopes like silent judges on the table. Curtis drove away from Crannell's Steakhouse, the weight of the confrontation settling into a strange calm. The envelopes he'd left with Lauren's family, filled with texts, GPS logs, and audio evidence, had done their job. Lauren's smirk was gone, replaced by panic as her parents and sister saw her for who she'd become. Curtis didn't linger to watch her unravel. He had more to do. The evidence wasn't just for her family. It was for Justice, and Ryan, the man who'd orchestrated so much of this betrayal, was his next target. Back at his apartment, Curtis called his brother, Ethan, the criminal defense attorney. It's done, he said, his voice steady. The family knows. But Ryan's the bigger problem. Ethan, already briefed on the files, agreed. Those audio clips and texts, they're not just infidelity. Ryan's manipulating people, maybe worse. I've got a contact in law enforcement. Send me everything. Curtis uploaded the USB drive's contents to a secure server Ethan provided, including Ryan's drunken voicemail bragging about exploiting Lauren and others. Ethan promised to flag it to his contact by morning. The next day, Lauren texted Curtis, "We need to talk. Please." He ignored it, focusing instead on protecting himself. He met with the financial advisor Ethan recommended, finalizing the transfer of their joint accounts to a secure holding. It was legal, surgical, and left Lauren with only her personal savings. Curtis wasn't vindictive. He just wanted to ensure she couldn't claim what they'd built together. By noon, Ethan called with an update. His law enforcement contact had reviewed the files. They're looking into Ryan, Ethan said. The voicemail and text suggest coercion, maybe blackmail. They'll move quietly for now. That evening, Lauren showed up at the apartment unannounced, clutching a small notebook. Curtis's old high school journal, something he hadn't seen in years. She held it out like a peace offering. "I found this," she said, her voice low. "I read it. I thought it'd remind you who you are before this." Curtis didn't take it. "Why are you here?" he asked, his tone flat. Lauren hesitated, then admitted, "I know I messed up. I thought I could fix it." Curtis cut her off. "You didn't try to fix anything. You try not to get caught." She flinched but didn't argue, placing the journal on the counter before leaving. Curtis didn't touch the journal. Instead, he checked his laptop for updates from Mia, his cybersecurity friend. She'd uncovered more. Deleted emails where Ryan hinted at leverage over Lauren, threatening to expose their affair if she backed out. Curtis forwarded them to Ethan, who confirmed they strengthened the case. "If he's done this to others, he's in deep," Ethan said. Curtis's suspicion grew. Ryan's tactics felt too polished, too practiced. He asked Mia to dig into Ryan's online history again. By midnight, she found a pattern. Cryptic posts on obscure forums linked to Ryan's old email, boasting about controlling the narrative with clients. One post mentioned insurance in the form of recordings. The next morning, Curtis drove to the Ellison Hotel and requested security footage from the night of Lauren's last visit, citing a personal matter. The manager, after checking his ID, provided a clip showing Lauren and Ryan in the hallway, time-stamped to match the GPS logs. Curtis added it to his evidence, then sent it to Ethan. That afternoon, Ethan called with news. They picked up Ryan. Quietly, no press yet. The footage and emails were enough to start an investigation. "He's not walking away." Lauren texted again, her tone desperate. "He's threatening to leak everything. Texts, calls, everything. Curtis, he's going nuclear." Curtis stared at the message, realizing Lauren was now a pawn in Ryan's game, just as she'd made him one in hers. He texted back, "Too late. It's already out of your hands." She didn't respond. Curtis felt a flicker of pity, but it faded quickly. She'd chosen this path. By day 3, Lauren's family reached out. Claire, her sister, called, her voice shaking. "I saw the files, Curtis. I'm so sorry. We had no idea." Diane sent a text, brief but heavy. "We need time. Lauren's not welcome here right now." Paul didn't contact him, but Claire mentioned he was furious, mostly at himself for not seeing it. Curtis didn't gloat. He thanked them for their honesty and moved on. He met Ethan again to discuss next steps. "The police are looking at other victims," Ethan said. "Your evidence opened a door. They found similar complaints about Ryan. Coercion, recordings, threats. He targeted vulnerable people, not just Lauren." Curtis nodded, the scope of Ryan's actions sinking in. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator, and Curtis's evidence had cracked the case open. Ethan warned, "Lauren might try to spin this. Stay sharp." Curtis agreed, but he wasn't worried. He'd already taken back control. That night, Curtis sat alone, the USB drive in hand. He didn't need to review the files again. They were burned into his memory. Instead, he emailed his landlord, giving notice to move out of the apartment. It was in his name, but it carried too many echoes of Lauren. He found a new place across town, a small studio with a view of Puget Sound. As he packed his laptop, he deleted Lauren's access to their shared cloud account, severing the last digital tie. The divorce papers were already drafted, uncontested. Lauren hadn't fought for anything, perhaps knowing she'd lost too much already. Curtis looked at the journal she'd left behind. He flipped it open, skimming a page from his teenage years about fearing he'd never be enough. He closed it, slid it into a box, and taped it shut. Lauren had tried to use his past to manipulate him one last time, but it didn't work. He wasn't that kid anymore. He was a man who'd faced betrayal, gathered truth, and turned it into justice. The dinner had exposed Lauren, and Ryan's arrest was closing the net. Curtis wasn't done yet, but for the first time in weeks, he slept without waking. Curtis loaded the last box into his car and drove to his new studio apartment across Seattle, the city's skyline sharp against the morning haze. The divorce was finalized, uncontested, clean, and quiet. Lauren hadn't fought for the house or their shared assets, perhaps sensing the futility after her family's rejection at Crannell Steakhouse. Curtis didn't gloat or linger on her downfall. His focus was forward, on rebuilding a life untainted by her lies. The evidence he'd gathered, texts, GPS logs, audio files, and hotel footage, had not only exposed Lauren but also dismantled Ryan's predatory schemes. Now, With the dust settling, Curtis sought peace. Ethan, his attorney brother, called a week after the move. Ryan's case is moving fast, he said. They found 3 more victims, all with stories like Lauren's. Your files were the key, texts, that voicemail, the hotel footage. He's facing charges for coercion and blackmail. Curtis exhaled, the weight of his actions sinking in. He hadn't just protected himself. He'd stopped a manipulator who preyed on trust. Ethan added, Lauren's cooperating with the police. She's not off the hook, but she's not the main target. Curtis nodded, unsurprised. Lauren's betrayal was personal, but Ryan's was criminal. Claire, Lauren's sister, reached out next, her voice heavy with guilt. I can't believe we missed this, she said. Mom and Dad are still reeling. Lauren's staying with a friend, trying to piece things together. Curtis listened, offering no judgment. She made her choices, he said. You don't owe me apologies. Claire hesitated, then added, You didn't deserve this, Curtis. I hope you're okay. He thanked her and hung up, feeling a quiet resolve. Her family support, though late, was a small validation of the truth he'd fought for. Curtis threw himself into new routines. He joined a community coding workshop in Capitol Hill, teaching beginners how to build simple apps. The work grounded him, each session a reminder of his ability to create rather than destroy. One evening, while debugging a student's code, he met Ellie, a graphic designer volunteering to create visuals for the group. She asked sharp questions about his approach, her curiosity genuine. Over coffee after class, they talked about music, her love for jazz, his for indie rock, and the way Seattle's rain made everything feel like a fresh start. Ellie's laugh was unforced, her presence steady, and Curtis felt something stir. Not love, not yet, but possibility. Weeks later, Ethan shared the final update on Ryan. He took a plea deal, he said. No trial, but he's looking at jail time and a permanent record. The other victims are pressing charges too. Curtis felt no triumph, only relief. Ryan's consequences were earned, not through vengeance, but through evidence Curtis had meticulously gathered. Lauren, meanwhile, had moved out of state, according to Claire. She'd sent Curtis one last text. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything. He didn't reply. Apologies couldn't undo the nights he'd spent questioning his worth or the hours he'd poured into uncovering her lies. Curtis visited the Ellison Hotel one last time, not for evidence, but to close a chapter. He sat in the lobby, watching guests come and go, and realized he no longer felt tethered to the pain of that place. The security footage, the note he'd slipped under the suite's door, the confrontation at Crannell's, it all felt like another life. He'd acted with precision, not rage, and that choice had saved him. He left the hotel and walked to a nearby bookstore, a habit he'd picked up since moving. There, he ran into Ellie again, browsing a shelf of sci-fi novels. She held up a worn copy of Dune, grinning. Ever finish this one? She asked. Curtis laughed, admitting he'd stalled halfway. Let's read it together, she suggested, and he agreed, the moment feeling like a quiet victory. Months passed, and Curtis's life took on a new rhythm. He ran along the Puget Sound Trail, most mornings, the steady thud of his sneakers grounding him. The coding workshop became a weekly highlight, where he and Ellie collaborated on a project, a free app for local nonprofits. Their conversations grew longer, often spilling into late-night dinners at food trucks. Ellie never pried about his past, and he didn't volunteer it. Instead, they built something new, rooted in mutual respect and small, honest gestures. One evening, as they shared tacos under string lights, Ellie asked, What made you start over? You seem solid, like you've been through something but came out stronger. Curtis paused, choosing his words. I learned the hard way that loyalty starts with yourself, he said. I had to take back what was mine, my peace. She nodded, her eyes warm, and changed the subject to their app's next feature. Curtis appreciated that. She didn't need his story to know him. The final piece came unexpectedly. Diane, Lauren's mother, mailed him a letter. It was brief, handwritten. Curtis, we failed you and Lauren both. Thank you for showing us the truth. We're trying to heal. Enclosed was a photo from their wedding, Curtis and Lauren smiling, unaware of what lay ahead. He didn't keep it. Instead, he tucked it into a box with the journal Lauren had returned, sealing them away with the past. Curtis stood in his studio, the city's lights flickering through the window. He'd exposed Lauren's betrayal, stopped Ryan's schemes, and walked away without losing himself. The evidence, the dinner, the legal fallout, it wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about refusing to let lies define him. He opened his laptop, not to check files or emails, but to code, to create. Ellie's latest design mock-up was waiting in his inbox, and he smiled. This was his life now. Not a reaction to pain, but a choice for something better.